No Heisman to worry about, no game to worry about, but it's still going to be a big weekend when it comes to all things Alabama.
Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back into Locked On Bama. Luke Robinson, that's me. Jimmy Stein, that's him. Jimmy, how are you today?
I'm doing really good. How are you?
You've never asked.
I know. I don't think I've ever asked the history of the show, actually, but it's because you always appear to be doing fine with your jovial attitude.
Well, this episode is brought to you by BetOnline. Thank you guys for listening. I am in Mobile. Tomorrow I'll be going to the Alabama-Mississippi All-Star game. I hope to get several interviews with players. If I do, then I'll put them on here. I'm hoping to do all that. I'm hoping to get on the field, get a lot of pictures. One thing I like to do is get pictures with these guys because, they may turn out to be famous. And I did that one year. I may put the video on here if I can find it while you're talking. There was when the first college football playoff happened, SportsCenter was doing a special on Jameis Winston. And I wasn't paying any attention to it. My phone started blowing up. They were like, "You were just on College Game Day." And I was like, "What?" And I rewound it because I had it on. And it had a picture. It had a video of me interviewing Jameis Winston. It was actually at the Champions Challenge, but it was before his senior season. And I'm holding the microphone in front of him, and he's talking, and I'm just doing this. I'm nodding for 10 full seconds almost, I guess. And everybody was like, you were a professional nodder. So, it was funny. But, I love this. I mean, I've gotten to see some really cool
He was telling you, I'm going to steal some crab legs. And you were like, I
was like, yes, you are. You're going to say some very inappropriate things. Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna have a very questionable relationship with a female and for to say, what do you think about that, Mr. Robinson? And you're nodding your head.
I'm like, yeah, it sounds about right.
It's all caught right there on SportsCenter.
But anyway, I'll try and find that video while you're on a rant here in a little bit. But so I want to talk some Alabama-Mississippi All-Star game here in just a second. I haven't seen anything yet, but I do want to talk about some of the reports coming out. But Jimmy, I was just going to let you just talk about the visitors this weekend. Alabama does have some visitors this weekend, and apparently one of our commitments, who's a 5-star, and Tony Mitchell, is visiting Auburn this weekend. And one of the Auburn moderators over at 24/7 is very confident that he will end up flipping to Auburn.
Yeah, Tony Mitchell, Tony Mitchell, ever since he's been committed to Alabama, he's not been too shy about visiting other places. He's been to College Station numerous times since his commitment to Alabama. He's at Auburn this weekend. Look, there's two ways to look at this. Number one, he's been committed to Alabama for quite some time. I know Alabama is very confident that Tony Mitchell is going to sign with Alabama on December 21st. That remains the case today. But you'd also be crazy not to be a little concerned. If Tony Mitchell's sort of engaged to you and he's still dating other schools, it's got to make you a little wary. So I think it's fine to be nervous about that. I'm sure Alabama is to an extent, but at the same time, Alabama is very confident that Tony Mitchell's going to sign with Alabama on the 21st. But if you're nervous, Alabama is too. As far as the other visitors, a lot of interesting kids. Aaron Carter, the outstanding linebacker from Memphis, really excited about him. Probably a strong Alabama lean. He'll probably just sign on signing day and make an announcement that day. Of course, a ton of interest in the two Carver Montgomery kids, Quay Russaw and James Smith. We probably talk about them more than any other prospects in this cycle on the show. They're finally making their official visits this weekend, the only official visits they'll be making in December. Strongly considering Auburn. They've been considering Auburn even when it was unknown who their coach would be. Now that it's Hugh Freeze, you got to think they're giving him a strong listen. But as of today, I would still project that Quay Russaw and James Smith both sign with Alabama as well. Also interesting this weekend to me, Luke, is our first portal visitor, the tight end from Maryland, C.J. Dupree. He is I think he caught about 30 balls for 300 yards this past season at Maryland. He's more of a blocker than a pass receiver. I would say he reminds me a little bit of the kid we have now and Miles Kitselman, a little bit like him, a little bit like Cam Latu, who just graduated and was announced this week that he'll be playing in the Senior Bowl. But Dupree is the first guy in the portal that's visiting Alabama. So that's interesting. We have not offered CJ Dupree yet. I think they wanted to eyeball him, check him out, meet with him, learn a little bit about the kid. I know Joe Cox, our tight end coach, has been up to Maryland and met with him up there. Or met with him at his home in Scranton, Pennsylvania, famously the home to the sitcom The Office. As we know, supposedly The Office is in Scranton, Pennsylvania. That's where CJ Dupree is from. So if we do offer him and we do take him, I'm going to call him Michael Scott or Dwight or some other cool Office nickname.
Stanley.
Stanley. No, probably not Stanley. How about this? When he drops the ball, though, we'll call him Toby.
Or we can call him Kevin, like when he dropped the chili.
When he dropped the chili. Did you see Kevin on game day this year? No, he was on game. Was he on game day or? Yeah, he was on game day.
I think he was. Yeah, and he's a big fan of somebody.
Yeah, like a
Minnesota or Wisconsin or something.
Obscure, like Kansas. Was it the Kansas TCU game or something?
It may have been Kansas. All right, now, Jimmy, I have found the video of me talking to Jameis Winston. I'm going to try and put it on here.
No way.
Everybody, bear with me for 1 second while I put this up. It's at the 40-second mark, so I have to put the video up and move it over.
This is 2012?
No, this is 2014, the first year of the playoffs. So hang on. Here we go.
All right.
Well, Happy New Year. And yes, Jameis Winston is such a huge deal in his hometown of Hueytown, Alabama, that, well, there's no mention of him on the city limit sign, not even as a Heisman Trophy winner, and no street signs named after him. Why? Because the mayor said that if they put him up, he's worried people would steal them as souvenirs. But yes, they do remember him in Hueytown, and they remember a high school game that has become a Jameis Winston football trivia question.
We don't make it to the title game, I'd be very disappointed. Not only my team, but in myself, most of all, because I got to lead them there. And I plan on going undefeated. November 25th, 2000.
All right, did you see it?
I did. I saw you. Unbelievable.
That was me just nodding, and that was
he wasn't telling you his plans about shoplifting crab legs, though.
But that was on sports. I mean, that was on game day before the playoffs.
That's why you're my partner on the show, man. Your celebrity status. People still remember you from that.
And I mean, that had to be the most boring 44 seconds for anybody listening on the podcast, and we're sorry. But
we're just saying a lot.
If you were watching on YouTube, you liked it a lot more. Jimmy, I need to tell everybody about BetOnline.net. BetOnline.net is where you want to go to get that bet in. You can check in on MMA. You can check in on baseball, basketball, football, college, pro, whatever you want. They got it at betonline.net. I'm telling you, you're going to love this website. It's so easy to pay in. It's even easier to pay out. betonline.net is the fastest and easiest way to get that bet in. And look, they have been a loyal, awesome, super sponsor for a long time for us. So I know you guys are out there playing it. You can play poker. You can play whatever you want. betonline.net is where the game starts. All right, Jimmy, I'm looking at AL.com, and they have a report on the Alabama Mississippi practices, and they keep saying Peter Woods has been the most impressive kid at practice. I mean, just over and over and over again. So, and he has given no indication at all that he and you and I have not seen any indication that he will flip to Alabama. I think Peter Woods is going to go to Clemson. I think that deal is cut, literally and figuratively, and I think that's where he'll be going to play football.
I think almost certainly Peter Woods will follow through with his commitment to Clemson and sign with them. There was some talk that Nick Saban might have an in-home with him. I think if something like that happened, it would be like on the super down low. As we all know, Clemson famously does not allow flirting with other schools. Somehow they get away with this. They pressure their kids that, hey, once you commit to them, they expect you to act like you're committed. And if you take visits and talk to other schools, then they will consider you no longer committed and they'll give away your spot. I mean, that's how they handle things, and it works for them. I'm not sure it would work if you're recruiting the numbers of 5 stars and high 4 stars that the Alabamas and the Georgias and Ohio States recruit, but that's how they do things. And their kids stay, for the most part, pretty honorable when it comes to that. So that's why Peter Woods has not had Nick Saban in his home. But if it does happen, it'll happen in the next few days. As you know, there's a dead period right before signing day. So I think a week from this Sunday will end the live period. So if there's an in-home visit, it would either be, today or next week. I do know this. We were recording the show on Friday, December 8th or December 9th. And Nick Saban was at Thompson High School this morning, the premier high school program in all of Alabama, where Tony Mitchell goes to high school. Nick was at his high school this morning. Whether he bumped into Peter Woods or whatever the rules are now, you would have to assume that they at least wave to each other. But in terms of what I know that's going on between Alabama and Peter Woods, it's not much. My sources at High School All-Star Practice this week confirm the AL.com piece, and there Peter Woods has been by far the most dominant presence on the field, which is impressive considering the amount of talent that's there, the number of great players that are there going up against really good offensive linemen. But Peter Woods is apparently, per the observers on hand and the coaches on the staff of the Alabama High School All-Star team, Peter Woods is far and away the best player on the field.
Yeah, and a guy that's playing really well for Mississippi and that's actually going to play quarterback is Brayson Hubbard, who's committed to Alabama. A lot of people know about him, sort of a 4-star guy here in the state of Mississippi. And he's going to be playing quarterback, but at Alabama, he'll be playing safety, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Brayson Hubbard will play quarterback for Mississippi in this game tomorrow, but Bray is going to be a defensive back at Alabama. Here's an interesting note from Andrew Bone, my comrade at BamaInsider.com. Bone with an interesting nugget today for our subscribers, saying that Hubbard is getting late attention from schools. He didn't name the schools, but Hubbard's getting late attention from schools telling him, hey, if you flip from Alabama and sign with us, we want you as a quarterback. That could mean two things. One, they're serious and they want Hubbard to play quarterback, and he is a good quarterback. He's back-to-back 6A Player of the Year in Mississippi due to his quarterback play. So it's not outrageous that a school would be interested in him as a quarterback, and he has reportedly looked pretty good at quarterback this week in practice. However, my feeling is, Luke, that some schools that really want him to play defensive back, just like Alabama, are making quarterback promises just to get him on campus, knowing that at some point he'll voluntarily switch positions if he's not getting playing time. So, but Bone did report that today, that Hubbard's getting late interest and late offers from schools swooping in and offering him quarterback spots.
Yeah, and look, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, that could work. I mean, look, everybody's going to be pulling out all the stops to get whoever they want now. I mean, there's really nothing illegal or immoral anymore. I mean, it's funny. Some people that have been listening to our podcast, at least on the YouTube side where they can make comments, a couple of folks were like, oh, y'all are just mad that Dallas Turner is getting these offers. We want to be very clear. We're fine with the kids getting paid. We're fine with that. I think I speak for you, Jimmy, that we're fine with this. We are not fine with, even though this is it's almost impossible to stop now, we're not fine with the idea of somebody making an offer to a player currently on another team that's not even in the transfer portal. That's just screwed up. I mean, the NFL wouldn't let you do that.
That's against the rules in the pro leagues. That's against the rules in the pro leagues where they're adults and they all make millions of dollars. That's against their rules. It's ridiculous that it wouldn't be against college rules.
Yeah. So, I mean, and again, we're for everybody getting paid. But now one thing that was posted on Facebook today by a friend of mine who does all the radio broadcasts for Thompson High School. He made mention, and I guess I could say it, his name is Jerry Young, super nice guy. Been calling games for Thompson for a while. I used to call some games with him in Birmingham and do a scoreboard show with him. Super guy. But he made a post on Facebook, and I have not verified this at all, so maybe I should even throw it out there. But he said, hey, he's seeing where in Tennessee they are coming up with NIL legislation or rules or laws or whatever for NIL in high schools. And again, I guess, as an American, I feel like, hey, you're never too young to get paid now. I mean, you get paid, I guess. But man, we're eventually going to destroy the foundation of this sport. Because I mean, if it doesn't stop at high school, and it's not, if it goes to high school, then it'll go to junior high, then it'll go to Pee Wee, and all of a sudden, we're having 8-year-olds sponsor their local hardware store in a flag football game. And while some people may see there's nothing wrong with that, and again, I could make the argument maybe that's just the natural progression of things.
Well,
But something doesn't feel right about it. And I mean, I'm not saying it's necessarily inherently wrong. I'm saying I think eventually that will be the destruction of the foundation of the sport or sports in general, because it will carry over into basketball. And as we said on the podcast the other day, tell me if I'm not tell me if I am speaking out of turn here. But, eventually if we go to something where these players in college are having contracts, which that may be the only way to make it where it's neat and tidy and it's not just a free for all the time. And if you go to that method, then you don't have Title IX anymore involved. If you don't have Title IX involved anymore, then you're going to get rid of a lot of sports that a lot of kids play that get scholarships or partial scholarships that generate zero money. In fact, they lose money, but football makes up for it. And I don't know that we want that either. So it's and again, I know that it's not necessarily fair that the football players have to foot the bill for the rugby players or the badminton players or whatever. But that's the way it's always been. We've always dealt with it. And now we have unleashed, we hadn't just like opened, the whole thing about Pandora's box is you just open it just a little bit. Like that's really what happened in like a bunch of stuff. We took Pandora's box and we smashed it over the head of Pandora, her own self. We were like, you see this box? It's on your head now. And we just smashed it right on top of her head.
Take this and see what you can do with it.
Whap. You skank. Was Pandora a skank? I don't know. Anyway, all right, let's take a break, Jimmy. We're going to come back and talk a little Alabama-Houston for just a second. And we're back. Jimmy, Alabama and Houston, and I highly recommend there is a show called Locked On Cougs, which is not nearly as dirty as it sounds.
Let's say.
I mean,
you watching that one? That's going to be
4 years ago. If you had told me
that's a YouTube, don't just listen to that one.
4 years ago, if you had said, Luke, you want to be on a show called Locked On Cougs, I'd be like, you dang right I do. Just tell me where to take my shirt off. But anyway, Locked On Cougs. Houston.
Hey, you were talking about NIL deals for Little League a while ago. By the way, the very first, that has been done before. The first NIL deal for Little League team ever was in California, Chico's bail bonds. An NIL deal with the Bears. Pretty famous.
Well, that is, I guess in a sense they always have been sponsored, but they don't get direct money. But anyway, so Locked On Cougs, the host, had me on to talk Alabama, Houston. You can look up Locked On Cougs, COOGS, for that interview, and it's gotten a lot of traction. So I appreciate it.
I'm going to Google Locked On Cougs. Please see what happens.
Clear your search history after you do that, unless you don't want to stay married. But so Alabama, Houston tomorrow at 2:00. Unfortunately, I bet you this Alabama Mississippi game will still be going on, so I'll have to sort of pull double duty here in watching that. But I do plan on watching all I can. I feel like Houston's going to win this game. Houston's a really good team. Marcus Sasser's really good. They got Jarris Walker, who I think came down to Alabama and Houston. Honestly, I feel like that's who he came down to, and he's a true freshman playing very well. If you were making an all-freshman team in the country, I think Brandon Miller would certainly be on it, but Jarris Walker would be on it too. He's not playing as well as Brandon Miller, but he's really close. I mean, he's very good. He's a first-round NBA pick. There's no doubt about it. And the rumors are, and I while you're talking here in a second, I can verify this, that the tickets are going upwards of several hundreds of dollars. Because this gym only seats about 9,000. It's like Auburn's Neville Arena. And I asked him about it. He said, yeah, that place is going to be crawling with folks, and it's going to be bananas.
It really is going to be hey, look, My expectations for this game are pretty low, considering I think we're a team that could potentially get to the NCAA tournament and make a run. My expectations are low. It's just sometimes I feel, Luke, like there are some situations in basketball, particularly football too, but in particularly basketball, where you go on the road and you go into their gym and your chances of winning are roughly about the same as, the Bull in Mexico City on badass Matador night. I mean, it's you're the Bull, they're the Matador. They're going to be getting all the calls. If I don't even want to read, I don't want to read one post Saturday afternoon or night or one tweet anywhere of an Alabama fan complaining about the officiating in this game. It is going to be this is going to be a brutal home court environment that Alabama's up against. We're not going to get calls. They're going to play hard. They're going to play mad. And I'm not saying Alabama's going to get blown out. I love this Alabama team. I think it's the right team to go into a place like that. But boy, what a test. What a test. And as good as Houston is, they're the number one. North Carolina was ranked number one because they played for the national championship a year ago and returned 4 starters. Houston's number one because they earned it. This particular team has earned that ranking by winning and looking impressive constantly. And they're set to play their best game of the year tomorrow afternoon against an Alabama team they want to murder. So I'm not giving Alabama much of a chance. I would say the same thing about the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think this is going to be a problem, but I'm anxious to see how we handle this environment.
Right.
I mean, we played some tough teams, but we've not been in a tough environment yet. So I'm anxious to see how we do. That's going to be interesting. Now, I just looked up on Ticketmaster. There are not a ton of tickets available, first of all. And the tickets that are available are either way in the upper sections or the best ticket available that I'm seeing on here is actually like behind the basket, also in an upper section for $640. The cheapest ticket I'm seeing is $241. So yeah, that's like the actual dump truck of seats that it could possibly be. So this place is going to be slammed and it's going to be fun and it's going to be loud. And look, I'm here for it. Even if we get blown out, I don't care. I love the opportunity. This is what you have to do to get some of these guys prepared for much bigger contests down the road, and in conference. And so I'm here for it, man.
When you go play at Auburn, I mean, Auburn's a really good team. Again, yeah. Auburn's good every year. That environment for us is really rough. Hey, but this year when we go to Auburn, it's sort of been there, done that. It won't be as bad at Houston's smaller place with 9,000 fans who paid hundreds of dollars to be in there against the number one team in the country. I'm just saying this game will prepare you for those SEC road games, even the environment at Auburn, which is always just really brutal for our guys.
All right, buddy, we will be back. Hopefully we might do one late tomorrow night. Who knows? After Alabama, Mississippi, and Alabama basketball, we'll see what we can do. If not, it'll be early Sunday. We will do that. And until then, everybody, roll Tide.
Roll Tide.